Hey Wealth Builders! Welcome back to another episode of The Bemused. My name is Mishak.
And I'm Akiba.
And on this channel, we talk about all things personal finance for young adults just like you and us.
So if you're into that kind of stuff, go on ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell so you never miss when we post new valuable videos just like this one.
And in this video, we're going to be talking about life insurance.
Now, I already have a feeling that the YouTube algorithm is not going to like this video, but that's okay because it's a message that needs to be heard anyway. Because this is a personal burden, at least on my heart, at least. Because I feel like life insurance is something that is not, I wouldn't even say it's not talked about. It's known, some people talk about it, but when it comes to actually acting and taking out a life insurance policy, it's something that doesn't happen as often as it should, especially within the Black community and other minority communities. And that is why I think it's especially important to highlight life insurance at this time during Black History Month. I know that the typical rigmarole that I've seen, at least in my circle, is that when somebody passes away, immediately you see a GoFundMe set up. And I think it saddens me every single time I see that happen, where it's like this family doesn't have enough resources to do what they need to do to move on, and to survive without this person. Even just so much as to bury them. Sometimes families don't have the money, and it really pains my heart when there are, families who might be able to afford life insurance who just don't. So we're going to talk a little bit about our experience getting life insurance, what is life insurance, why it's important, and why it's something that we think everyone should consider. So at its core, what is life insurance? Life insurance is very similar to other types of insurance. Essentially, it protects not the person who, of course, passes away, but it leaves something behind for their family, for whoever needs to, use the resources that person provided in order to sustain, maintain their lifestyle. There are different types of life insurance policies. There are permanent life insurance policies. Those typically are an asset to the person taking them out. A lot of them, they accumulate cash value over time as you pay premiums, and the premiums sometimes can be a lot depending on the type of policy that you have. And then there's also term life insurance, which is a really popular type of insurance, especially among younger people, where you pay, a certain amount of the premium every single month. There is no value built up. It just is, you have a policy for the term that you've set it out for, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the term is of that policy. And then once the time is up, you stop paying. If you don't die, you just stop paying. There is no other value to you. It's just gone. So that, in a nutshell, are the two basic types of life insurance policies. Now let's talk a little bit about the process of getting approved for a life insurance policy and a little bit of our experience going through it, because we recently took out policies for ourselves.
Each person's experience might be a little different, but for us, and we're not sure if it was due to our age, due to the insurance company that we decided to go with, but we did not actually have to do any sort of health affidavit or anything like that. I mean, they asked us some questions about health, but with some other insurance companies, you actually have to take a form to your physician. They have to complete it and sign off on that, and that is what the insurance company uses to analyze your worthiness before it goes to the underwriting stage.
Yes. So it's important to know that in our case, we are young, relatively healthy people, no major pre-existing conditions or anything like that would disqualify us from getting kind of the preferential rates with life insurance. We specifically chose companies that did not require us to go through the exam process. There were a few options out there, but we specifically chose the ones that didn't require that, because especially in the middle of a pandemic, who's trying to voluntarily go into a doctor's office right now when they don't have to? Not us. So that, that was great. They just asked questions over the phone and it was fine. So to put some more context around why we think this is so accessible, especially for younger people, of course, the younger and the healthier you are, the cheaper your premiums are. We took out term insurance policies on the two of us, and our monthly premiums, you guys saw this in our budget, it's under $25 a month for the both of us, for pretty long term, honestly, policy of a few $100,000 each. So just to tell you kind of like, it is within reach for some people. It's just the more you know, the more you can apply. So that's basically our situation. One important note, if you're trying to get life insurance during this here pandemic, we ran into a couple of roadblocks with that specifically because of our honeymoon. At first, we tried to take out these policies, you know, right after we got married, essentially, and they were like, well, do you have any out of the country, you know, travel booked? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, well, that means your premium's gonna go up by this amount. And we were gonna be paying that premium for the next, you know, few decades. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense just because we had an out of the country, you know, trip planned in the middle of the pandemic. So basically they were like, you can either pay the premiums or cancel the flights or wait till you come back to take out the policies. So that's what we ended up doing, was waiting till we got back from our trip to enact the policy so that we would qualify for that lower regular rate. So if you're trying to take out a policy and you have international travel plan, it might present a problem.
And to break that down again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here, the reason why the insurance company was, you know, increasing those premiums is not really just because of the pandemic. It is a higher risk for you going out of the country and, you know, possibly passing away out there, and we have no idea on international laws on death and all that sort of stuff. So it might have been a little bit more of a, you know, difficult situation for them. So they were like, look, if we are going to take this risk, then you have to then pay more money. So that's why they were charging us more. So when we got back on US soil, you know, we could apply and put in our application, and then the answer, or do you have any out of the country travel in the next 90 days or whatever the time period was, the answer honestly would be no.
So a couple of questions you might be thinking of if you're saying, well, life insurance, like what should I actually do about this information if I want to take out a policy? Where should I look? So getting a life insurance policy is pretty accessible with these online, you know, aggregators out there. That's personally the route we took, is we just went online, used a very popular aggregator site that looks for different insurance policies for you, and that's what we did. And we looked, we compared, and we looked for a couple of key things. So one, the premium. Of course, we wanted it to be competitive, you know, on the lower end of the options we were seeing. Two, we wanted to make sure that it was a financially sound company. We actually ended up taking out policies. There were two different companies that our policies are with, and we wanted to look at the financial health of those companies, because the last thing you want is to take out a policy like this, especially it's not like it's a one-year policy. These is probably going into, you know, decades in some cases, where you want to make sure that company's going to be around if you need to, you know, collect on that life insurance policy. So they have the ratings there, and you can look into more research as to what those ratings mean. Most of them have like letter grades, like an A or, you know, AA, whatever those ratings are. You can look into those and see what they mean. So that was the second consideration that we really took into account when we were choosing policies. And third, like we mentioned before, ones that did not require us to go in and have a physical done in order to get approved for the policies. So those are the three things that we looked at when we were comparing policies. Then you might be asking, well, how much insurance do I need? And that honestly depends. For us, this really is kind of like a starter insurance, as I kind of refer to it as, you know, just a few $100,000 each, where in the event something happens to us at this stage of life, where the other person is able to continue their lifestyle and not have as big of, you know, a financial burden, where they're able to live comfortably and really just, you know, not be in a financial bind because now we're missing someone's income. So for us, that was just a few $100,000. As you guys know, the only debt we have right now is student loans, which die with you. So it's not like the other person would have that to pay. Really, it would just be, you know, maintaining the house and maintaining their lifestyle. So it's not to say that this is all the insurance we'll ever get in our lives. Will we get more insurance in the future? We might. Will we get less? We might. It also depends. There are some people who are wealthy enough to self-insure, where something happened to them, their family is straight. They don't need to necessarily take out these huge life insurance policies. So really, like I said, for now, this stage of life, it works for us, but we'll see kind of where life goes in the future and if we do need to increase our insurance later on or not. But for now, we also didn't want to overpay for insurance. Like, we didn't want to be over-insured either, because that definitely can be a thing. You don't want to have too much, but you don't want to have too little either.
And bringing things full circle, back to that comment about how it affects people that look like us, right? So again, we are not, you know, oblivious to the fact that there are people out there who are struggling. We're in a pandemic where there are people who have lost jobs, have lost their homes. So we are completely sensitive and understand that. But the reason why we believe that insurance is so important is because it's really something where you're not thinking about self. You're thinking about the people that you are leaving or coming behind you. It's about that child. It's about that spouse. It's about that whoever it is. If you don't have any kids, your siblings, your parents,
depends on you a lot of the time.
whoever it is. Because at the end of the day, regardless of whoever you might have that you are leaving behind, you want to have something so that they can at least bury you at the bare minimum. So even if you choose not to do an insurance policy, like Akiva said, if you want to choose to self-insure, where you have some money put aside in a savings or a checking account, where if God forbid something happens to you, that it's enough to at least bury you. Look into it. Find out how much the average funeral cost is, and if that's the route that you choose to take, if you're relatively young in your 20s, you don't have any kids, there's nothing wrong with that, because most of your debts would probably die with you, I'm assuming, But when you have a spouse, when you have children, when you have a home, when you have
or a parent who depends on you.
Yeah, or parents who depend on you, or a sibling who's depending on you. Yeah. You want to, like I said, think about them in all that you're doing. It's not about you. And a story that comes to mind is actually one that we studied in high school, which was A Raisin in the Sun, where that black family was able to go from struggling to actually surviving. And they didn't have, the insurance policy was what they were waiting on to buy that home. That is what insurance can do for the people who you are leaving behind, where if you choose to have a larger amount of money where the house can be paid off, where now there's no mortgage to worry about for your spouse or mom and dad or for your children, where that can go towards your child's college fund, whatever it is that you and your spouse, if you have children in that situation, decide to do, those are the type of things that insurance policy can help cover or alleviate any issues like that.
Yeah, so my hope is for a world where there's a lot less GoFundMes out there. That seems to just be the default answer whenever somebody passes away, where we're seeing a lot less of that and a lot more generational wealth being created through life insurance.
So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss when we post new content. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.